line text is. And so, of course, this is a great place to just create a new file and hold some notes or Python code that you're working on. So real quickly, we'll just do a print. Let's use that inputs to make something a little more advanced than hello world. I don't know if you noticed this, but you don't need to put a space at the end. That should happen on, actually, I think you do, so that it'll be a little more clear that the user is inputting something. But anyway, this is Python code. I'm going to save it real quickly as, oops, I'll save as, and I'll save it in the code folder. Like everybody should have a code folder. And my student email username is dlane, so I'm going to save it like that. Oh, uh, probably don't want to do that. Yeah, because that has, oh, it only has 32 bytes in it. Well, anyway, I'll call mine something different. We'll pretend that my username has a 2 at the end.
Okay.
And now let's get to the fun stuff. So when you launch git-bash, you should see a terminal that looks like this. You won't see all this other stuff. I've added some custom scripts at the beginning of mine, but you'll see a prompt with a dollar sign. And that's a bash prompt, and that in there you can run any of those bash commands. Brittany, can you think of any bash commands that you can run?
EWD.
Right, that's a great one to start with because that tells you where you are. You know of any others?
LS.
LS, great. That's the second best one that you want to run second every time. So that tells you what's who all your neighbors are in the current directory where you are, your current work, your working directory. Next, do you have the last one that you really need to know in order to move around, to change?
CD.
Perfect. So we're going to change into that code directory. It's in my user directory. If you ever see a tilde character, that represents your home directory, and it's usually slash users or slash home, followed by your username. Uh, uh, I'd use some options there, dash HAL, that's human readable sizes. So that puts this little K on next to the size that H does. There's some other options, L for long. So it does a lot of information, or you can think of it as lots of information about each file. All that's just by habit. You don't have to worry about it. But now that you're in that directory, we should be able to do the normal ls command that you're familiar with, and you should see those two dlane files that I created, and you should be
Mm-hmm.
able to run them. Uh, so I'm going to run dlane 2, and then we'll actually run dlane 1 just to see it's asking for my name. I didn't do anything with that name, so nothing happens, and so that's my first Python program that I ran. And
Okay.
but the thing that's just the way you run a program, that you're running the Python interpreter and you're telling it what program you want it to run. And as long as you're in the current path and it can find that path, or you can give it an absolute path. I could have done Python tilde slash code slash dlane 2. Again, that would have done the same thing. This time I'm going to run the other one just to see what's in it. I have no idea what it does. Uh,
Oh, cool.
uh, cool. So it was just an example game that I was for students to see how to do stuff. Um, great. So we can now run whatever program we want. We can give it an absolute path with more of it can be inside of other folders. You can be an absolute path and it'll find it and then run it. If it can't find it
Okay.
or you've given it an incorrect path, then of course it'll give you an error. Next, let's run it interactively. And this is how you can really boost your learning. It's called active learning when you use a tool interactively and you try to predict what it's going to do before it does it. When you run one big program, it's hard to predict all the things that are going to happen. But when you run a single line
Mm-hmm.
at a time, it's much easier and it gets your brain more familiar with whatever that language is much faster. So of
Hmm.
course we can run that command that we had before. You can still, actually this won't work in this particular program. I'll give you one other hint. Um, on your machine, I think you can type pipe3 install pip3 install Python. This is for advanced users, so you can shut your ears. If you say pip3 install IPython, pip just stands for Python installs Python, or pip installs pip, or it's a recursive acronym. But anyway, you can install this thing called IPython, which is another interactive Python interpreter. And once you've done that, and if it works for you, then you should have this command called IPython instead of just Python. It works the same way as the other ones, but it brings up a slightly different prompt and it gives you a lot more features. So it gives you those features it gives you a few of those bash commands. And so that can sometimes be helpful if that's how you like to interact. It also makes it easier to type to exit. But I'm going to go back to the one that everybody has, the old-fashioned Python prompt. Um, so in here, you can you're going to have to copy and paste anything that you want to do. So I'm going to improve this. So when I ran this the first time, when I ran my program the first time, we noticed that it didn't do anything. So I'm going to assign a variable to that. X is an okay variable, but you usually want to use it for numbers like you would use in algebra, X equals one or whatever. And
Hmm.
so we're going to call this variable name. And then we're going to do something with it. This you should learn about this this week, I think. Conditional expressions,
Hmm.
and we're going to do something different depending on whether the user said, depending on what so they need the user needs to know a secret word. So this is our new program, but instead of running it all at once, I'm going to run it one line at a time. I'm going to copy and paste that line. And I'm going to paste it into my screen. Unfortunately, it didn't do the indentation right. I'm not sure why, but this is something that the IPython would do correctly, but the Python will not.
Okay.
So you'll have to add oh, oh, no, no, the indentation was right. It just pasted two lines instead of one. My bad. Uh, so, so you want to run one line at a time whenever you can. And so I'm going to type this one, and I'm going to hit enter. And we already know what's going to happen here, but the goal is to try to guess exactly what's going to happen on the screen. It's going to print out that your name colon without any quotes around it. Now I'm going to type Hobbs. And now, because that's the only line in my program, what's going to happen when I hit enter now? Can you guess anything?
It should print. I don't remember what it was. It
Uh,
should print the message.
that's because you're remembering the old program. I'm not running the
Ah,
whole program. I'm just running a single line. All it's going to do is
oh,
store that thing in the variable name, and it's not going to do anything on the screen. I'm going to give you another playful thing to do. So this is the kind of thing I want you to do in your learning. Just do something crazy and see what happens. So I'm going to just type this
okay.
variable name, and you're going to discover what happens here. Unless you can guess it already, you might learn something new. So do you happen to know what's going to happen when I type the name of a variable without doing anything with it? I'm not telling it to do something like print it or input or assign it to anything. I'm just saying the name. What would Python do if it was trying to help you?
Maybe make a suggestion of what you're trying to do.
That'd be a good way if it was acting like a chatbot. But instead,
Yeah.
Python just guesses. It's saying
Ah,
probably this person wants to see what's inside, what the value is inside of it. And it's going to print it out in a way that contains the Python code. So whatever comes out is usually going to be something that's approximately like Python code. And you could type this. That's the actual way that you would express that value of a string in Python. And so it's letting you know not only that it has that word Hobbes in it, but that it's a string. Let's do that again because it may. This is another fancy thing. Another one of the things you might discover if you just start hitting banging keys on your keyboard. You hit the up arrow, and it's going to go back to your previous commands. So I just cycled
Mhm.
through all my. I can cycle through any of those commands that I want to rerun. That way, I don't have to type them. So I can hit enter,
Very useful.
and I'm going to put in a different type of object here. I'm going to type in what type of variable would you call that? If I made x or name equals 1.0, what would you call that number?
A float.
Perfect. So now what do you think is the representation of a float that it's going to display to us?
The
And
1.0.
now I'm going to give you a little more hints because exactly right. It would normally just display it as 1.0 if it was a float type. But
Ah,
that input statement, if you read the documentation or you've used it a lot, it doesn't know what it doesn't know what a float looks like. It doesn't know anything. It's completely dumb. And so it's just going to store whatever the user types into an object. Yeah, do you know which type that is? It's going to all that can always accept whatever you type.
I would take a guess and say it's a string.
You got it.
Oh, good.
And that's why I put quotes around this number. Uh,
Okay.
and let's go back to the old one just so I don't confuse you too much. Well, no, let's do this first. So now you've got a name. And so if you're writing a program and you actually want the user to like say they're entering their height or an address number or street number or something, and you want actually a number, you're going to need to convert that to whichever kind of number you want. And you can use that type name as a function, and it will work to convert whatever you have. So what do you think is going to print out now? If I just do float name and I don't assign it back to name, I don't change name. Um, what does Python do when you do an expression that really does nothing, that doesn't change any variables, or if you don't ask it to print out things to the screen, what's it going to do? And what's going to happen here now when I hit enter?
Um, I'm not 100% sure. If I was guessing, just because you're changing the type, it should print the 1.0 without the quotation marks.
100% correct. Uh,
Yay.
So you should each time you get something right, you should be getting a big dopamine hit in your brain, and this is what will
I
reinforce
am.
that groove in your brain, and then it'll make you realize, hey, I'm smarter than I thought I was, and you're getting smarter each time. Of course, you're going to have a lot of the negative reward as well whenever you get things wrong, and that will force you to do it again and try it different ways and explore and find those dopamine hits. Okay. Let's see what else. Okay. And what if you don't want to float? You can do this. So now what's going to print to the screen?
Just one without the point
Oh,
zero. Oh no.
all right. Because now we both got a negative hit on that one. So it should have, it turns out that I was not doing that on a float type. I was doing it on a string. And you have to be really
Okay.
careful when you're doing it on a string. It has to be a valid value of that type. So 1.0 is not
Oh,
a valid integer value, but one is. So if I'd done it on one, it would have worked. But I did it on, and I could do it. I can show you another way I could do it. I could do it let's fix our brain. Now, what does name square bracket zero? Do you remember what's
in
in that string object? So now you can see that name up here has 1.0 in it. So what does name
uh,
square bracket zero represent?
a list.
Square bracket zero would be a list if it wasn't if it wasn't a string that we were operating on. And so when you use the square brackets after a variable name, it's not a
Mhm.
string. It's telling you can only put an index number. It's not I'm sorry, it's not a list. It's not acting as a list. It's acting as an index into.
Index.
So
Okay.
now can you guess? Let's make it a little simpler. Let's start. This is the way you should do it when you're learning. You want to, whenever you use a new pattern, do you use the simplest form of it first and see what
Okay.
happens. What's this going to print to the screen if I do name square bracket 0?
The letter N.
Oh, but name is not this value of the variable. Name is the name of the variable. Uh,
Oh.
do you remember what the value of name was? I've got it highlighted in white up here.
Oh, so just the number one?
Exactly. And that's why
Okay.
I was skipping to the answer of this whole issue by because if you want to create a float or an int, or we wanted to create an int, so we could do it this way. Another way you can do it is we know that that name contains a string that looks like a float. So that should convert to a float perfectly. And then we know from past experience that maybe you don't yet because you don't have that experience, but you can convert any float to an integer and it will throw away anything after the decimal place. So again, if you're predicting in your head, I'm not going to wait for you to do it, but you can see that it would do the same thing. And both
Hmm.
of those are they're outputting an integer. So you could assign that to something like x, and that x variable is going to contain that value of one. Uh, okay, so. I guess I mean, I've been talking too much already, and this video is way too long. Um, the first step to your active Python learning is to guess what's going to happen, copy and paste lines of code into the terminal. And if you want to continue what we're doing today, you can and continue working on your midterm project. You want to run the rest of these lines like this. You want to have an if expression. Copy and paste that here and see what happens when you try to run that. Because that's not really a complete statement. It has a colon at the end, and that's kind of saying keep going. So if you're guessing what's going to happen next, you probably won't guess this. It's going to go ahead and put ellipses at the beginning saying, hey, you got to type some more. I don't know what the heck you want me to do. And so, and it's also going to indent four spaces for you automatically. So when you go to paste some more code, you're going to probably want to select the stuff without the spaces. And then you're going to, and so, oops. There we go. And then when you paste it in there, by the way, pasting in Windows is going to be harder. You're going to probably have to use Shift Insert or use your right mouse button to right click and hit paste. Same for
Okay.
copy. But you can set up hotkeys to be like they are in Bash and in your terminal so that it will be a little easier. There's a Control Shift C and a Control Shift V that I'm using that most people use in the rest of the world besides Windows users.
Okay.
And so that's an option if you want to make your life if you want to stay away from the mouse, which most developers do. Um,
Okay.
uh, so now what's going to happen when I hit um, enter? Remembering what everything. So first you have to read the entire line to understand what's going to happen. First you have to
Hmm.
guess what if is going to do. Then you have to guess what name is going to do. And then you have to guess what the double equals is going to do. What's a name? You got to know what's inside as the value of name. What's inside a value of name right now?
Hobbs.
No, this is a badly named.
No.
This is a badly named variable, and this is why it keeps confusing you. You keep thinking it has the string name in it, but we can see up here that it doesn't.
Oh.
I answered with a non-name to that input prompt, and so it's storing a number right now. So right now, name contains 1.0, and so and this is a very common error to make when you're reading code. When you see the word name and you see a name right next to it, you just assume that they're the same thing, and you assume that that's what's
Yeah.
it's going to be evaluate to true. And that's why you'll get a logic error when you actually run it and hit enter. When you hit enter the first time, it says maybe he's not done, so it's going to give me ellipses again. But if you hit enter twice, then it says, okay, he's done. He didn't want to enter any more code. And so it's going to actually run it. And nothing happened because name was not equal to Hobbs. Um, and this whole process of copying and pasting code, if you get tired of active learning and you're trying to test your code, you can copy a whole block of code and and paste it all at once. And again, you're going to need to hit enter twice in order to get it to say you're done, and everything will work. And one, so maybe to give you something new to learn,
Mhm.
um, you might want to, well, anyway, play around with the else statement and whether you want the else statement to happen. Um, what you can do is this is another common, this is a different pattern that you probably won't read about in your book, but uh, uh, and a better way to design this code is to create what's called parameters or variables to hold the stuff that you want it to do so that, and this is the way ultimately you're going to build your program for the final project. So I just want you to see it now. If you have, and that way you can have only one print statement and it will do the same thing that other one did. But you can see that it's not going to change the variable for this will do the exact same thing. It looks a little shorter. I guess it is a little shorter. And because it doesn't have two indented blocks, it's a little easier to read. And this is a more common way to write that same behavior and make it happen. And you only have one print statement. So whenever you're searching for print in your program, you only have to look at one place instead of looking all over the place to find what's going to happen,
Okay.
what's going to print out. It just makes tracing your code, reading your code a little easier. Tracing the clues is like Sherlock.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.